Hello everyone, and welcome to Memory Matters for All Ages. I'm Janelle Nichols, representing the Gables of Hudson Assisted Living residents. I want to welcome back to the program Catherine Kilpatrick. If you are a regular watcher, you know that Catherine is a speech-language pathologist with over 40 years of experience. She's a natural speaker and a national speaker, both. And she is also author of over 30 publications. Catherine, welcome back to the program.
Does that mean I'm Chatty Cathy?
No, I didn't say that. You did. This is the week that we usually talk about red flags in regards to dementia,
Right.
Alzheimer's, cognitive issues. And I know we've been talking about a memory fitness plan, but with your home health work that you do, I know you're very concerned about safety and also pointing out concerns to family members and caregivers of things that maybe they haven't noticed before. We have just celebrated the holidays. We've come through the holidays, and I know that that's often a time when families come home and see other family members that they haven't seen for a while and notice that there have been changes.
Right.
This is going to be what we're going to talk about today.
Right.
Talk a little bit about some of the issues we've covered in the past and what we're going to talk about today.
Right. Well, we've talked about finances, and we've talked about driving, and we've talked about medication, and those are kind of like the top three that people want to address or don't know that they need to address. And I think that it's so important to look at some other areas that come up, because if you can get a sense of what's going on with your loved one that has Alzheimer's disease or related dementia, you can then start to put some steps into place to be more proactive. And I think that's one of the most rewarding parts of my job, is going into a situation where someone really doesn't have these things on their radar screen. And it would be really helpful to know a little bit more of that, because what happens is these are things that require higher level thinking skills. They require problem solving. And as the progression of dementia goes forward, very often these things are subtly changing, but if your loved one is maybe a little more frail or aging, you might think it's just part of that process, as it well could be, but it could be a whole lot more.
The program that we did on driving and medications was very popular. In fact, when we did our question and answer program, we had a question about driving, if you remember.
It comes up all the time.
It does, and I think that the reason why you focused on those because they come up all the time, and they're also so important, and we're talking safety. But there are other areas that I think, for lack of a better phrase, lay people like myself, we don't connect the dots. How difficult something that we look at as quite mundane and simple and an everyday task can be for someone that is now challenged with cognitive issues.
Absolutely.
Share a little bit about some of these things that maybe, I know I hadn't thought about them, maybe our audience hasn't either.
No, and I really enjoy this part with families as well, because we look at meal planning, shopping, and cooking. Okay. With my crazy schedule, it's like not my top priority. And so over the holidays, having company in one night and then taking a dish to somebody else's house and then entertaining another night. And it's like, what day do I buy this? There's a lot of organization and planning. So what can end up happening is, as someone lives alone or is having, some other problems, and I'm not even talking financial at this point, it looks like they start to simplify. So we talk about the lifestyle choices and maybe skipping meals, or maybe just the frozen meals. And if you have salt restrictions, sodium restrictions, and I hear people, well, I do, without advertising anybody, one of the frozen dinners for lunch and, for an evening meal. And then the other thing that also plays into this, their dentures don't fit. And I see a lot of people that are labeled as failure to thrive, and they're losing weight. And I have a hard time understanding, but there are many clients that I see that have not worn their denture for years, and they're still eating meats and so forth. But what can happen, and I say to families, notice what kinds of foods they prefer and which ones they don't have difficulty with, because part of that not eating as well, and especially the protein and the skin breakdown, I mean, it's just such a complex area. And then the dehydration, and they're not thirsty, and that type of thing. So we need to look at that. But then we also need to talk about traveling. And when you think about taking trips, the planning, I mean, packing up to do our shows, and it's like, do I have this, do we have this outfit, and do I have the script, and do I have the props, the mugs, and then I'm going to see patients after, and then I have a meeting after, and then I'm seeing a private client in the evening. So my car went, I was packing it in layers. Well, when an older adult is traveling that has dementia, there are major concerns in terms of, think of the airports and how crazy they are, or if they're taking a bus or something along that line. And then what if there's detours or flights canceled, and someone who has a mild memory problem may be able to handle the changes and the gates and all of that. But I actually rescued, quote unquote, a woman in the airport in Chicago who was changing planes the Thanksgiving after 9/11, and she thought a friend was coming to pick her up at the airport and take her on a vacation, and she was totally confused, just as sweet as she could be. And then my mom one time missing the bus that she needed to take to connect to Buffalo, where I was picking her up because of her hearing loss. So, and it was then that I realized that she's probably not going to be taking a bus to my house anymore. We had kind of stopped the driving. So, that's an issue. And then the other thing is fraud. And on the website are some excellent links to some things that the National Council on Aging put on, in terms of top scams with older adults with fraud. But it's so easy for anyone, to get the email or the scam or whatever. We see stuff in the newspaper all the time. But here's the thing, older adults are more trusting, and sometimes they're lonely, so they will listen to this person because they're having a conversation. That person knows how to work, the whole deal with them. And then if they're not hearing well, and they don't realize, what's being said, and without giving any tips of what they can do, it is pretty significant. So those are some things to help the family understand, your family treasure and all the assets could be gone because your loved one got scammed by someone that was very convincing to them, making repairs at the home and so forth. So it's a huge thing.
It is, and I've seen it in my work. I've seen it many times. Unfortunately, I've also seen where it can be a family member that is involved in the fraud, and the rest of the family doesn't realize this is going on until it's a little too late. Give us some tips now. You've laid the groundwork for us. Give us some tips and some that our folks can take with them.
Great. One of the things I would urge, I did a blog for elder care issues a couple of years ago, and there are just so many details about holidays and celebrations and so forth. So, and traveling and aging parents, when to step in. So if you're looking for a resource with practical tips, because I've gone into the home and given suggestions for families, this is going to be great. I'm going to just give you a couple of ideas in each area. With the meal issues, perhaps mobile meals might be an option, because then they don't have to cook and plan their main hot meal of the day. Often nutritional supplements can be very helpful. There are some products that people can take. Also, if they're diabetic, there's also Carnation Breakfast Essentials, because some of those are very expensive, that they can add to milk if they're milk drinkers. Notice if the dentures are part of the problem, because it can be swallowing. They may need to be relined, or there may be some issues where the diet texture, and I've seen this happen so many times. Suggest to the family, instead of giving them steak, go to the meatloaf or something that's nice and soft, and see if they eat more of that, and very often that is the case. And then liquids, and what I would suggest with this, and this has worked for quite well. A lot of times people have like a big container, and they'll say they're going to drink that much, and they've got it at work. But for an older adult, what they could do, and get 8-ounce bottles and number the caps 1 to 6, and fill them with different liquids for the day. And then, by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe you've done 3 of them, and then you finish up by the day, and you can keep track. Because I know sometimes I'm driving in the car and I'm going, did I drink any water today? Because it just isn't on the forefront. I get my morning cup of coffee and water and juice, and that's about it. So traveling, a few tips would be that you may need to have someone accompany them, and then another thing might be direct flight, but giving them all the detailed information that where they're going, contact phone numbers. And again, that would be for someone that has just mild problems. When someone has more dementia, that's not going to be such a good idea. The other thing is they may need help packing. Because that organizational skills and what do I need, and especially if, they're going to a warmer climate, or someone from Florida is coming up to Minnesota for the winter months, and taking a vacation then, because that's that organization of what do I need to take. I remember when my mom went to a wedding once, and she always was very fussy about what she wore and all. She had hardly anything in her suitcase. And then with fraud, in terms of, is there someone, can you oversee what's going on? Can you pay attention? Do you have a power of attorney, so that you have the possibility of looking at that kind of information, or supervision with the emails, because often the computer goes down because someone has clicked onto a virus, which is a red flag. So those are just a couple of quick suggestions, but refer to the website for way more details, because we could spend an hour on each one of these topics.
Well, speaking of the website, Kathy does write a blog to correspond with each week's topic, and I know that one of the blog subjects that you've written on recently is aging parents, when to step in. So please watch at the end of the program, and you can see Kathy's website, see how to get to her blogs, and you can also contact Kathy that way. Take us to the wrap-up here.
Okay.
You always send us on our way with something that we can carry with us through the week.
Here's what I think we can all do. Be the messenger. You may have a situation, but I swear 5 times a week someone from outside my day-to-day routine talks about a loved one that they're concerned about. And if the Alzheimer's Association is a great resource. If you want some one-on-one suggestions that are specific to different scenarios, then I would suggest looking at some of the information that I've made available. This isn't something I put in a book. I put it on the website just as free information for people to have, because I think that as we're more aware, then there are more things that we're able to do. And I have a quote that I want to end with. Have patience with the thoughts and concerns that remain unsolved in your heart. Don't hide. Live in questions as you slowly uncover the answers you seek. Replace your fears with an understanding that settles them down. Author unknown.
Thank you for that quote. I love her quotes. I know you do too out there. Something I do want to remind everyone, Catherine is available for private consultations with individuals and families. She does work with individuals with memory concerns, memory issues. Again, if you'd like to contact her, watch at the end of the program and you can see her email, her website, and contact Catherine that way. Thank you all for joining us again. Now go and make it a great day.